Welcome everybody to our one of our last sessions of the virtual open house. We are here on behalf of the School of Social Work at Memorial, myself and one of our BSW students, Kristen. So you'll hear a little bit more from Kristen shortly. But my name is Nikki Brown, or Nicole, and I'm the Student Liaison Officer with the School of Social Work. And my job is to help recruit our students and help folks with the academic advising piece and all of the pieces that fit together to help you apply to the School of Social Work. And social work is not a direct entry program, so we're going to talk a little bit about the academic requirements, the other requirements, and Kristen, our BSW student, is going to tell you a little bit about what it's like to be a BSW student here at Memorial.
Okay,
So,
I'm just going to pop in just for a second, Nicole. My
sure.
name is Roxanne Preston. I'm the Associate Registrar for Admissions, Recruitment, and Scholarships at Memorial. I work at the St. John's campus. I'm here to moderate, so the Nicole and Kirsten are going to do all of the talking this evening, but I'll be here to just kind of watch the questions in the chat. So if you have a question, your microphones are turned off, and so are your videos, so we can make sure the internet doesn't get fooled up. But if you post a question, like I'll be the one, I'll monitor the chat, make sure your questions get asked, and make sure that if you don't get a question answered, we'll talk to you about what can happen at that result as well. So anyway, okay, go on ahead now, Nicole. Sorry.
Great. Thank you, Roxanne, our lovely
Yeah.
moderator for this evening. So we'll get started. Kristen, did you want to just briefly introduce yourself before we dive in?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen, and I am the class president for the 2026 cohort.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here to help me. It's
Thank
always
you for
great to
having
have
me.
a student perspective. So let's dive in. So the School of Social Work, we are the only provider of social work education in Newfoundland and Labrador. We have a couple of different options for our undergraduate degree. So the BSW, the Bachelor of Social Work, but we also have graduate programs, our Master of Social Work, and the PhD program as well. We're accredited by the Canadian Association of Social Work Education. We have faculty who are involved in diverse research and practice areas. So some examples include gerontology, the study of aging. We also have some faculty members who do a lot of research around the LGBTQ community, new Canadians, immigrants and refugees. We have some faculty who do research in Indigenous communities, some faculty who research around substance use, mental health and addictions. The list goes on and on. So the various areas, it's really wonderful to have such a diverse wealth of knowledge and experience in the school so that students can learn from different perspectives and different backgrounds. So that's a really great part about our school. The BSW and MSW programs include coursework and practica. And so practica is a big word for field placement. So it's not a work term, it's an educational experience, but it's where you get to be in the field learning from a social worker, closely supervised by a social worker who would be your field instructor. And so Kristen will be starting her first practicum next fall. So it's all very exciting. And there's an opportunity for 2 practica in the BSW program. So you do one field placement in 1 year, and then you do another academic year, and you do your final field practicum right before you finish with your degree. So Kristen will take over now for a little bit.
So, what is social work? Social work is a profession concerned with helping individuals, families, groups, and communities to enhance their individual and collective well being. We uphold the 6 core values outlined by the Canadian Association of Social Workers, which include respect for the inherent dignity and worth of persons, pursuit of social justice, service to humanity, integrity of professional practice, confidentiality in professional practice, and competence in professional practice.
A common question that we get is, what can I do with a Bachelor of Social Work? And this is one of my favorite questions to answer because the possibilities are almost endless. So the BSW program prepares you to work as a generalist social worker, and that means that you can work in a variety of different areas. These are some photos of our alumni here. So here's one of our alumni, Justin, and he's leading a choir through Stella Circle, the Inclusion Choir. And then you will see, let me just move my little box over. So here in the middle, that middle photo is a bunch of our alumni. They're gathered together at the 50th anniversary of social work education in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that was in 2018. We were on the Signal Hill campus in their beautiful, still somewhat new space, and the power went out that night, but if there's one thing about social workers, we can talk. So it didn't stop us from networking and getting to reminisce with some alumni and some folks that we knew. So it was a really nice event. And then here in the last photo, this is some of our alumni. And some of these folks work in mental health. They've worked with folks with eating disorders. They've worked with folks who are dealing with family members lost to suicide. We also have one of our alumni here, Annette, and she works with the Newfoundland and Labrador College of Social Workers, so our regulatory body. And in this list here on the screen, you'll see that there are many other examples. So you can work for community agencies like nonprofits, community centers, advocacy groups. You can work for government agencies across the whole spectrum. So justice or justice and public safety, child welfare, children, seniors, and social development, or health. You can work in hospitals, treatment centers, like a rehab center or a residential center. You can work in private practice, particularly once you achieve your graduate degree. The NLCSW will then approve you to do private practice, so some counseling. So that is an interesting fact that a lot of people don't know, is that with social work, you can also become a mental health counselor. You can work with individuals, families, and groups in policy development, program development, and administration, and you can continue your education and get a graduate degree, and some universities even offer a joint Master's of Social Work and a law degree. So there are many, many options out there, and you can change course many times, or you can follow your passion right from the get-go. So that is a beautiful part of social work. Some quick facts about our program is that, again, we work to develop folks' general skills for working with individuals, families, communities, and groups, and we offer a first and second degree program option. So obviously for the first degree program, it would be for folks who do not yet have an undergraduate degree, and then our second degree program is for folks who do have an undergraduate degree already. So with that being said, the first degree program is 3 years once you're admitted to the program, and the second degree program is 2 years once you're admitted to the program. They are on-campus full-time programs. They are in person, so there's currently no online option for the full program, although there are some levels of flexibility when you do your field placement, and there is an online course with that. And our programs are competitive, so it is not a direct entry program, which means that when folks apply, we score applications, and the most competitive applications are successful according to how many seats we have available. And the last fact is our students are awesome. So down here in the photo, you can see some of our students at the Pledge of Professionalism ceremony, which is similar to the School of Pharmacy's white coat ceremony. So preparing students ahead of their first field placement by giving them a little pin with their name so that they can get ready to enter the field as a student. And that's a big group of students there outside our building, St. John's College at the bottom. So our admissions requirements, that's an important thing to know if you're considering applying. And so this is the first question that will determine which program you are looking to apply for is, do you have an undergraduate degree? If the answer is no, you would apply for the first degree program. And for that, you would need to complete 30 credit hours of required courses. You must receive a grade of 65% or higher in each required course. You must receive an overall average of 65 or higher in the most recent 30 credit hours or 10 courses that you've completed of your undergraduate study. And you must have completed a minimum of 60 hours of verified work or volunteer or community involvement, so it can be paid or unpaid experience in human services related to social work. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So if you do answer yes and you have an undergraduate degree, you can apply for our BSW second degree program. So you would have to have completed your undergraduate degree a minimum of 45 credits from the approved disciplines, and all of those approved disciplines are listed in the Memorial University calendar, which is the final authority on all admissions regulations as well. You must have completed 9 credit hours or 3 courses of required prereqs. So for the second degree program, that includes our introductory social work 1710 course here at Memorial, which is offered online. And you need to complete that one for the first degree as well. So receive a grade of 70% or higher. So the minimum grade is a little bit higher in the second degree program, and it's also a little bit more competitive because we have less seats for that program. So you must receive a 70% grade or higher in each of the prerequisite courses, and then an overall average of 70% or higher in your most recent 60 credit hours or 20 courses. And as well, the experience requirement number of hours is also higher for second degree. So you're expected to complete a minimum of 300 hours of work or volunteer or community involvement in human services related to social work. So it's important to note here that those minimums of 60 and 300 respectively, that is the minimum. So the more hours that you have, the more competitive your application will be in that area. So as noted there below, all the complete admission requirements are located in the university calendar, and my contact info will be at the end of this presentation as well. But if you're looking to chat further or have a look at your courses with somebody or talk about what you can do, you can contact me at bswinquiries@mon.ca. So we'll put that in the chat shortly. So if you're considering a Bachelor of Social Work or a BSW, the first step is to apply to Memorial to complete the prerequisite courses. You would then complete the required courses with the required grades by the end of the winter semester for the year you're applying. So if that was this year, that would mean that all your courses have to be either completed or in progress during the winter semester of 2024. And then you would also be working on completing your required work, volunteer, or community involvement experience related to human services and social work. And you would, of course, then apply to the BSW program by the March 1st deadline. Our deadline is March 1st every year, so the next deadline will be March 1st, 2024. And there below is the email I just referred you to, so bswinquiries@mon.ca. And anytime, please reach out and ask questions. There are a lot of resources I can send along. If you learn better visually, if you learn better through listening, if you learn better through reading all kinds of information in an email, whichever works best for you, we'll work with you on that. And now, introducing Kristen. So before we finish up our just brief, I guess, introductory presentation to the program itself, I'm just going to ask Kristen a quick question. What is a typical day in the life of a social work student? What does it look like? How are you liking it?
I love the program so far. Previously, I was in nursing for 2 years, and that was very chaotic. And I found for me that wasn't really the way I wanted to go with school. So I wanted to help people, but maybe not as hands-on as what that was. And so I applied to the social work program and I got accepted. And it's been really, really good so far. Busy, but good. This semester I don't have really any classes on like Wednesday and Friday, so those are my days to really like study and go over my material, but I only have classes on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And classes are in 3-hour chunks, so you'll do one course for 3 hours each week. And then there's like 3 courses this semester, so I only have school 3 times a week, which is really good because it gives myself a balance between school and like my personal life, which I like. And that was way different when I was in nursing, and it's something that I really, really like since I've started social work.
Absolutely. Thank you. I feel like you touched on a good point there that you wanted to help people, but maybe in a different role or a different way. And so a lot of the folks that are attracted to the social work program, it's because they have a desire to be in a helping profession. And social work is one of those, as well as nursing, pharmacy, many different things. So thank you for that, Kristen. So you'll get an opportunity to ask Kristen some questions if you like. And we really quickly went over the bare bones of admission requirements, but we kind of wanted to leave it open for questions and comments and anything people might want to chat about, because you can follow up for further details on admission requirements anytime. But it's nice to be able to have a chat and talk about what's on your mind. So.
Okay, so I'm just gonna pop right in and ask a question here. Are there any preferred organizations or groups where you should do your volunteer work?
That is a good question and a very common question. So we don't recommend specific groups or organizations. However, the Student Volunteer Bureau at Memorial is a really helpful resource. They have a whole list of places that accept volunteers. I think they'll also help you explore your options. But something you can consider is which group or population or activity you might be more interested in, because the more you enjoy it or the more you connect with it, chances are the more you'll enjoy getting those hours. And then another thing to consider is the diversity of your experience. So if you've only ever volunteered with children, that would be less diversity than, say, someone who had worked or also volunteered with children, seniors, and new Canadians. So when we're scoring the experience portion of the application, we actually give more points for more diversity. So the more diverse of your experiences, the better you will do in that portion of the application.
So would volunteer work in high school count as well?
Yes, so you can go back as far as you like, whether that's to when you were 12 years old in Scouts, or whether you were in high school. You can list as many as you like. The only thing that you can't do is go ahead of the March 1st deadline. So if you're expecting to be volunteering, say in April, those hours won't be counted. It's up until the March 1st deadline, but you can use hours from high school for sure.
Thank you. I've got a question here for Kristen. Um, what was one of the things you were nervous about before you start university, and how did you overcome it?
That's a good question. I was more on the shyer side, all through like high school and even like first starting. Well, when I started nursing, I was pretty shy, but I feel like meeting people and, like, even meeting students and, like, working with, like, the public and stuff when we used to do, like, clinicals and, like, now even being here, like, when I go and do, like, my field practicum next fall, I feel like I have more confidence and, like, I'm able to socialize and be more outgoing, and I've changed a lot since I first started university, and here now I'm, like, the president of my cohort, and that's even, like, a big role to take on, and I feel like I'm not as introverted anymore, and I'm becoming more extroverted, which is a great quality to have.
Definitely. And I'll just remind everybody that if you want to ask a question, just feel free to type it into the chat. Make sure you send it out to everyone so that we can see it, or in the question and answer, send it to all the panelists. That'd be great.
I'll probably stop sharing so that you can see more of our faces while we're having our little discussion. But before I do that, I just want to note that there are two links here. If you're interested, you can just Google either of these associations. If you want to learn more about social work, especially as you're considering writing about your experience and how it's relevant to social work, if you're not sure how to make that connection, those resources will be very helpful. And again, my email, which I will certainly put in the chat for you, is bswinquiries@mon.ca. So I'll stop sharing now.
Another question we hear a lot is from the first year students, particularly, especially the ones coming in from high school. They understand that they have to do the course Social Work 1710. Like, how do they get registered for that? Is there prerequisites for that course? Like, how does
Yeah,
that
that's
work
a
for them?
great question. So 1710 is our online introductory social work course, and there are typically 3 slots of that offered in the fall and winter online. Some years it's offered in spring, but mostly it's fall and winter. And there are no prerequisites, so new students can certainly take that course. If you do have trouble registering for that course, we do have a little bit of an extra, I guess, safety net there for folks who have every other requirement completed. So if you're only waiting on that one course left and it's ahead of the March 1st deadline, you can reach out to me if you're having trouble registering, because fortunately that course is pretty popular and it does fill up quickly. Even with students who aren't planning to apply to the program, they just want to know a little bit more about what social work is, and they hear it's an interesting course. So if you do have trouble registering, you can obviously anytime reach out, but I will note that we'll only be able to help you with that if it's the last requirement that you need and everything else is either in progress or completed.
All right, so here's a question for Kristen again. How did you start to make friends at university?
I basically just connected with the people that were in my classes, and we all just formed bonds. And I feel like in social work, you're kind of like a little small family. I mean, like the building's small and like the class sizes are not very big. So it's just really easy for us to just like talk and get along. And we have like 3 different courses. So we have usually like 3 different groups of friends. And I find myself having a different group of friends in each course that I'm in. And it's great. And I'm excited for like next semester to meet some other people.
So
I'm
you
really
didn't
excited.
necessarily have friends that you knew when you went into the program? So you made
Um,
friends as you were there?
no,
Or?
not really, not at all. I knew one
Oh, okay.
person, that was it. So everybody was just strangers. But as soon as we like jump right in, everyone seems to be very open and willing to like be friends, and it's not really clicky. Everyone's really accepting of everyone. So I love that.
So does social work require you to be neurotypical and or mostly body able?
That is a really important question. Thank you for asking that, Allison. So we actually have many students in our program who are students with disabilities. So there are students who are neurodiverse. There are students who have many different diagnoses like ADHD. They might be survivors of some traumatic experiences. We have students in our program who have physical disabilities. And we have an elevator and we have an accessible building. So it's important to note that while there are obviously barriers in society for students who have disabilities, that we do our best to try to reduce those barriers, and it's still a work in progress. But one thing we have in place is our educational equity initiative, and it's important to talk about that anytime we talk about the application process, because for anybody who is identifies as disabled and self-identifies, you don't need any documentation. You can actually apply for the Educational Equity Initiative, which is meant to reduce barriers, and essentially it means that you are applying for an equity seat. So it means that you'll be scored in a smaller pool and you will have, it's meant to help reduce that inequity. So we also have categories there in that initiative for other equity seeking groups in general, and that could be folks who identify as queer, that could be folks who identify as survivors, maybe of the foster care system or anything else. We also have and this is 5% for each group, so it's a maximum of 20% of our seats. So 5% for other equity seeking groups, 5% for disabled students, 5% for Indigenous specific students, and 5% for racialized students. So it's one first step to helping correct some of that inequity. So thank you for asking that, Allison. Oh, and something else, we do have some of our faculty are really interested in disability studies and the social model of disability, and that's where their research comes from. They also, one of our professors, Amy, does a lot of research into disability and sexuality and youth, and one of our professors does a lot of research with parents with disabilities. So that's another wonderful thing, is that there are professors who actually are really passionate about that social issue itself.
Yes, thanks. Great. Thanks for that great question. So we're just gonna ask a question to Kristen again. What was the most rewarding part of your MUN experience so far?
Hmm. I think just knowing that I got accepted to the social work program was like just so shocking. I couldn't believe it. When I got out of nursing and I applied, I was like, I'll apply and see if I'll get in. And I tried. And I was like, if I don't, I'll just work towards it and apply again next year. And when I got in, I knew how competitive it was. And when I found out I got in, I was like, wow. I was so shocked. And just being in the faculty is like so great. I love it. And that's been the most rewarding so far.
That comes up for folks a lot when they're applying. They're really nervous. They're like, what are my chances of getting in?" And we can't really answer that specifically because each year a different pool of candidates may apply. So we don't know who's going to apply each year. So it's very hard to tell you if you have a high or low chance. What I tell folks is to try to make your application as competitive as possible, which means really, choose courses that you think that you'll excel in, and those will boost your grades. And then also try to diversify your experience, so your work or volunteer experience, try to get some different areas in there. And when you're writing your personal statement, that's the other part of the application process. It's very important that somebody read over your work, all your documentation really for the application, because you're also scored on grammar and punctuation. So make sure somebody reads it over for you, or you could go to the writing center. They can help you out with that too at Memorial.
So we have a question there now about how many students are accepted each year.
So each year there are, we've actually increased our seats over the past couple years. And so the general number of seats for second degree is 20 seats each year. And the general number for first degree is now 80 seats. However, if there's a student who, falls behind or takes a year off for any reason, they would claim one of the seats then in that cohort for the next year if they were to return. So it's not really fair to say that there are definitely 80 seats every year because that does change, but I'll say approximately.
Are there any scholarships that are meant just for social work students? And can you get
Sure.
them in your first year or beyond first year?
So in the first year, I don't think there are any academic scholarships available because it's done like by I'm not an expert on how our scholarships are done, but there are a lot. So there are academic-based scholarships, there are practicum-based scholarships, and then there are application-based scholarships that you can apply for if you feel that you are eligible or a good candidate. So there are a lot of different scholarships with a lot of different monetary amounts. And so you can actually, I'm gonna grab the link to that actually while we're chatting, and
And I'll
maybe.
just say, I do know that in the first year, like most students come in through our entrance scholarship program. So they're automatically considered on application, and we look at their early admission average to determine whether they get a scholarship offer or not. And it actually shows up in their letter. So they're not specific to faculty schools for entrance scholarships most times for the new students coming into high school students. But once they're in the program, that's when they can get the more specific scholarships, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there a way for students who are in their first year, so technically not a part of the program yet, to get involved in some activities that happen with the social work faculty?
That is a good question. Um, I guess most of the activities that are done are internal. So and we do have a small building that Kristen alluded to. So our building actually used to be a residence. So it's got like the narrow corridor, but it has had renovations. And so we have a couple classrooms where we can do up to like 30 people. And then we also have like a video conferencing option. My best suggestion would be to follow the School of Social Work on what formerly known as Twitter, because we share out a lot of our opportunities. So whether it be information sessions or events that professors are presenting research or students are presenting research. That would probably be the best way to get involved and to kind of find out more about what the school is doing. And then we also host booth fairs, depending on the time of year. Anytime Memorial is hosting, multi-faculty booth fair, will typically show up there. Yeah, so that's a good question.
Are there any specific courses that a student can take in high school that would help them get admission to the program?
That's a good question. So some high schools offer AP courses, and so you can get credits ahead of actually coming into the university if your high school offers that. So, for example, psychology would be one of our prerequisites that you can choose to take. And so, if you want to do the introductory psychology course, that is an option. What I would recommend is if you are able to, or if it's something that works well for you, is to practice your writing skills. So when there's a fair amount of papers, as Kristen can probably tell you about in the program, a fair amount of writing and some group work. So any courses where you feel like you're really buffing up on your communication skills, your writing skills, and critical thinking skills. So if you have any courses that talk about ethics or even anything like that that will help you think about just think more about the world and your place in it. That would be my recommendation. But once you get to Memorial, the prerequisites that you need, you can do all of them once you get in. So don't worry about starting early if your high school doesn't have the AP option.
And I guess getting involved in your high school helps as well. So if you get involved in like their social responsibility clubs or, recycling or something that, right, even if you're in a small high school, I would assume that type of thing would help.
For sure. We have a lot of students apply from rural Newfoundland and Labrador who have had involvement with their church or the community groups or their scout group or coaching sports with kids. Anything that you feel like will get you connected to the community is important. I'm going to put the how you can follow us on formerly known as Twitter in the chat there now. So if anyone wants to tune into what we're doing, that's the best way to keep up to date.
Perfect. So another question here is, as a student, how do you manage to manage your work-life balance to keep everything from piling up, but still have some time for extracurricular activity?
I can speak on that one. For me, I find organizing at the beginning of the semester all of my due dates and just keeping organized, like making a planner about like how much time I'm going to spend focusing on school each day, I find really helps so I don't get behind. Because sometimes I can be a little bit of a procrastinator, but I like to stay on top of things and try to get stuff done early because I find with social work, you'll have like down weeks and then you'll have weeks that things are like really busy. So I try to get a head start on most projects and like papers because that's what most of the field program is so far has been that there's not a lot of like tests yet. So it touches on like each bit of like your learning because some people are better at papers, some are better at tests. And I like that. I like that it's like diverse and not just all test based because I'm definitely not a test person. But keeping organized and making a planner really, really helps.
Do you find the group work either a bit of a challenge, or do you find that students who are in your group tend to have the same work ethics?
Uh, so far, I think it's been great. We all collaborate and we make sure that we get our like work done and we like look over each other's work and make sure that it's like good before we like submit it. And I really, really like the group work.
Just in case anybody just joined in, we're just doing the question and answer part of the session. I just asked if somebody got let in, so I wasn't sure if they got bumped out or a new person came in. And feel free to post a question in the question and answer in the chat if you have any questions about the social work program. I think you might have touched on this one, Nikki, but how early can a student get in touch with an academic advisor within within social work to start planning their courses?
That's a good question too. So I actually have had a few high school students reach out and say, I want to get started planning what this will look like right away. They're typically in their last year of high school. And something that we did this year, it feels like forever ago, the spring, but it was just this spring. The academic advising team went around to a lot of the high schools in the metro area, including as far out as Carbonear. And so I was able to join them on some of those visits. And while the academic advising team is able to advise you on the BSW program, when I'm there, it's nice because I can answer any and all questions students may have. And that was a really great experience because there were some students leaning toward they didn't didn't know if they wanted to do psychology or social work or nursing, criminology. They had a lot of different options on the table. So just giving them kind of a little bit more information to go on to make that decision. It's never too early to start thinking about it. And I do have a lot of good resources to send along, and there's recorded information sessions that we do twice a year on the admissions requirements, where I break it down really detailed. People ask questions. There's a moderator similar to tonight. And so that is on our website at all times. I keep the most up-to-date video on our prospective students page. And so that's a really good way to, especially for different learning styles, to be able to pause it, rewatch certain sections, that kind of thing. So it's great to have that option at any time to watch that video.
So we've got a question there about the person who's interested in doing a major in psychology and is wondering the similarities and differences between psychology and social work.
Yeah. So that's a common question for folks, especially when they're trying to decide. So psychology is a social science, but it can also be hard science. So depending on which route you want to go, whether it's the Faculty of Science or the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, social work draws on a lot of social science theories in our coursework and our practice. But the main difference is the diversity of social work. So with psychology, typically with your undergraduate degree in psychology, it's a little bit trickier to find work in that field. And part of that is because as of right now, there is no regulatory body in the province for psychologists in the same way that there is for social workers. So with an undergraduate degree in social work, it's a little bit easier to find employment right away with your undergrad. With psychology, you often have to seek out further education in your graduate degree. And especially if you want to be a clinical counselor, a clinical psychologist, there's a little bit more to that. But yeah, the diversity of social work. So you can go out and work in a nonprofit, you can go out and work in a residential treatment facility, you can go out and work in healthcare, government, and justice. So that is kind of the main difference. You can be a counselor with a social work degree. Again, you would need graduate study to be, deemed a counselor by the NLCSW. That's our regulatory body. So Newfoundland and Labrador College of Social Workers. And what that means is you would become a registered social worker if you have a BSW, and then you would actually be more eligible for some government jobs. And so I always say if you're really only looking to do an undergraduate degree for now, you're not even thinking about grad school, social work is a great option to be able to find employment right after finishing your undergrad.
Thank you. Another question: when you start when you start the application, can you return to it at any time? Can you speak a bit about the actual filling out the application process?
Sure. So our application is online and typically goes online live in October. So you can go in and work on that throughout the months leading up to March if you want to. And if you submit before March 1st, you can resubmit documents if you need to. However, as of March 1st, once that deadline passes, you can't change or edit anything. So I would recommend that if you're starting early, that you make sure that you have a really good look over everything before you officially submit it. However, if it's before March 1st, you will be able to edit your app or resubmit documents if needed. And the application, so what happens is you go online and the application has some basic information it collects from you, and then you submit that, and then the section for supplementary documents opens, and that's where you submit your experience document and your personal statement.
And I think there's some guidance on your website about the different documents that they submit too, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And you can reach out to me as well if you're finding the website hard to navigate or confusing or anything. But yeah, we do have some steps on how to apply on our website.
During your presentation, you mentioned that students don't come directly into social work. They have to complete courses to get into the social work program. And I think it was 30 credit hours or 10 courses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Do they have to take those 5 each semester? Can they take those 10 courses over a 2-year period? Like, how do you look at students and how they complete it if they don't do them full time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we don't look we don't look favorably or unfavorably on anyone for how many courses they've done over whatever period of time. If you want to take 2 or 3 courses at a time and work your way through, you can take courses in the spring and summer as well, leading up to the next deadline, the next March 1st deadline. So it doesn't matter how long it takes you, but you do need those full 10, and you need a 65% grade or higher in each of those 10 courses.
Just another question for Kristen. You said that you changed your program. You thought you were going to do nursing, and then you decided you're going to do social work. And we see that, like, I was an academic advisor for years, just a general academic advisor, and we see a lot of students who like to who end up making changes like that. Did you have any help with that decision? Like, how did you decide to make that decision to move? Like, just so that people feel more comfortable with the fact that, moving is fine and changing your mind is fine.
Yeah, when I withdrew from the program, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, and I thought maybe that me applying, and if anyone knew about like me withdrawing from nursing, maybe they would hold that against me and not get accepted. But I felt like that I should be honest on my personal statement and say like, that wasn't really for me, and but I feel like I still do want to help people, and I ended up still getting accepted anyway. So I guess it's not really looked at as a bad thing.
No.
People change their mind all the time, and sometimes it takes being in a couple different programs to find out what you like and what you don't like. And I feel like this is where I was like supposed to be, and I'm really glad that I'm here, and I'm excited for the
I
next
think the
couple of years.
statistics used to be something like 70% of students change their mind from what they think they're going to start out and what they end up with, right? When
Yeah,
they go to
usually when you're in
university.
high school, it's like you don't really know what you want to do, and like you're not prepared to make that choice of like what do you want to be for the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah. So we do see
On that
lots of
note,
people changing.
I should plug that in high school I chose to do social work right away, and part of the reason was because I didn't like math, and there's no math in social work.
There you go.
Yeah, also why I chose social work as well. I am good at math, but I don't like it. So I was like, I'm glad this doesn't have anything
Uh,
to do with math.
I was the opposite. I like my math, and well, I did a business degree. But I remember when I used to do advising, students would come into me and say, "What's a nice easy elective?" And I'd say, "I'd take math." And they'd get taken aback by that. And I'm like, "But I
Oh
love
my
math.
God.
I'd do a math as an elective any day."
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
different people have different skills and strengths,
Yeah.
and even if you're not a really, really strong writer, you can still apply to the social work program and get in and do really well, because there are a lot of resources at Memorial to help you with your writing, and there are other, forms of grading. So not only papers, but there are also some presentations and the group work involved. So all skill sets are welcome. I just wanted to plug that there's no math in case you don't like math or you're not good at math. I always say I'm a people nerd, not a numbers or science nerd.
So one last question, I guess, before you clue up here is, if I apply to social work and don't get accepted say after my first year, are the courses or things that I could do so that I could still try to apply in the second year?
Yeah, okay, that is another good question. So, something that we offer for anyone who's not successful. So, if you're deemed ineligible, so if you don't meet the minimum eligibility requirements, that will be the reason why you weren't accepted. However, if you meet the eligibility requirements and unfortunately you just don't make the competition and you don't get a seat, you can actually meet with me to review why you didn't get a seat and where you could improve. As well, for people who are ineligible, I'll review that with them too. So I will always help folks improve when they want to apply again. And we encourage people to try again because not everyone gets in on their first try. That was pretty common a few years ago. A lot of people were saying, it's really tough to get into social work. And like I said, every year that could change. But if it's really what you want to do, you don't need to give up. And there are courses that, so if you're a first year student and you apply to get in with your 10 courses, there are additional courses from humanities and social sciences that you're required to complete. It's 60% of our course content in the program is the professional education or social work courses, and 40% are the complementary studies courses. And so you can actually work on some of those courses before you get in. And if you have them finished, it reduces your workload for once you are accepted. So you won't be, sitting around twiddling your thumbs waiting to get in. There's lots that you can do to make things easier for yourself in the future.
And that was what I was going to actually ask for Kristen, is that because you said you're taking 3 courses this semester, and 3 courses not like it's a full-time load, but it's not like your normal 5 course. I was wondering, you probably had some courses already completed.
Yes, I usually take courses over the spring, and that's what I did in case I got in. I was like, I want to reduce my course load. And I know that there are other students who are doing now like 2 electives and the 3 courses, and they find it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it is a lot on top of it.
So
So,
there's
yeah,
that
definitely
ability to be
recommend.
flexible with the number of courses, I guess, that you take in your semester, depending on how you choose the timing that you decide to take them in. All right, so I think that's all the questions that I have there. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No question is too silly or
All right.
too obvious.
If you're thinking it, everybody else is too most times. All right, then if we don't see any, and feel free to type up some questions. I'm just going to turn it back over to Nikki and Kristen to say, see if they have any closing comments that they would like to share.
I'll let Kristen go first.
Well, thank you for having me here. It was a good time, and I encourage the people watching this to apply, take the chance, and I hope you all get in. And if you do get into the program, get involved. It's a really great program, and you'll meet lots of cool people. And it's definitely worth it. And I can see it being a great career.
And she's only partway through her first semester in the program, so that's really good to hear for me too. What she said, but also thank you for attending. It really means a lot that people would take the time out of their evening on a Thursday to come and tune in to our virtual open house. And as I said, any questions, anything at all, just email me at bswinquiries@mon.ca. Thank you.
So again, I want to thank Nikki and Kristen for sharing their program with us this evening and taking the time out of their busy day, and to thank you as attendees to do that. So this is the final night of our virtual open house. So if there are any sessions that you had hoped you had been able to attend, or like if you came to this one a little bit late and wanted to see the presentation, we will be capturing. We have captured all of our sessions. We've recorded all of our sessions for the last 3 nights, for tonight and the last 2 nights. Excuse me. And they're going to be posted on the virtual open house website. So if you want to check back there for and give us like a few days, up to about a week, to get the recordings all published, and you'll be able to look at all of the different sessions that took place and review them. And if you're thinking, even when you go to thinking about applying for social work, or thinking about your volunteer work, you can come back and check on what was said at the session if you want, right? So just make sure you check back and look at all of the different sessions that we have available for you all. So again, I'll thank you all for showing up, and we'll probably end the session here. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, Roxanne, for moderating.
Yeah. Have a good night now.
Thank you.